Raising your price and then you'll have more money to spend and you can hire more coaches. If you're not hitting somewhere in that sweet spot, 15 to 25%, then that tells me your prices need to go up.
Get a plan, get a strategy in place, know what you really are doing different than the rest of the market, have that boiled down. Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle podcast. And today I've got Paul Olsen on. How you doing, Paul?
Man, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're talking about HVAC pricing strategy and why you should raise your prices. And we're going to talk about a number of other things, including how to tie your team members' goals to your company goals, all of this stuff which allows you to raise your prices, all of this stuff that allows you to make a real living for you and your family, and to pay your people more and to do better work. So good stuff today. Paul, can you just give a couple minute background of you and the company so folks can hear what we're about to say?
Yeah, I mean, so Koala Coolant actually, we branched off of from a roofing company. The owner retired from the roofing company, decided he got bored after about a year being retired, and he started Koala Cooling. So that was 5 years ago. And he bought a small single man HVAC company, and he scaled that from roughly 250,000 to 2.3 million. And then, so I joined the Koala team about a year ago. And we were right about 2 million when I got here. And the reason that he brought me on, along with my business partner, Kyle, was because scaling businesses is basically our strong suit. And the number one way we do that is by being priced correctly. I think that's probably the biggest part that we bring.
Beautiful. So I'm excited to talk about that. And it's also the first thing a lot of consultants will, if they sit you down, they're going to charge you a couple $1,000s for a couple hours or whatever. The first thing they're going to say to you is,
charge more. Always charge more money.
Charge more because?
Yeah, because raising your price and then you'll have more money to spend and you can hire more coaches. That's probably the best reason, right? I mean,
exactly. So we're going to tell you how to hire all the coaches today and why. No, but for real, like there's a lot of reasons to raise your price that are really positive, right? Like there's the opportunity to do better work. We think about the people in the market that are adjacent to us that are trying to charge as little as possible. They're doing silly stuff. They're cutting corners. There's poor workmanship. There's lack of customer service. They're not treating their people very well. So, and I mean, like ultimately, I'm just going to be bold in saying I'm usually siding with the mid-premium, at least, companies. Maybe not always the most expensive, but I'm usually siding with that mid-premium company that's really trying to do the best work possible. Well, try to be efficient with it, right? Like that's usually where I feel like is the right thing. How do you know if you're too expensive, Paul?
Well, I mean, that's an easy gauge, right? You can look at your net profitability, right? And for one, that's the main reason I tell most people to raise their price, because once they actually look and they paid all their bills, they paid their taxes, they've paid themselves, and they look at it and they don't have any money left over. We're going, hey, how come you're not profitable at this point? And that is typically because they're not charging the right amount of money. So how do you know what the right amount of money is? You should be looking to be scoring somewhere between a 15 and 25% net profit margin, right? If you're not hitting somewhere in that sweet spot, 15 to 25%, then that tells me your prices need to go up. If you're hitting 30, 35% net, then your price is probably a little bit too high. And then that question becomes, are you really providing the right amount of value for that customer if your net profit is that high? I would venture to say probably not.
I'll throw it here, just a side point. What if you just aren't that efficient with the money? Do you know what I'm saying? Like net profit. There's also like maybe you have too high of overhead.
Yeah.
Which is, I would say, is not as common. Most small businesses are not that direction, but I'm just saying that can happen, right?
Yeah. Oh, you could definitely run really inefficient. You can run inefficient on materials. You can run inefficient on labor. I would tell you the biggest thing I see guys running inefficiently on is when they run inefficiently on their marketing, because they're just out there doing their own thing. I'm just spending like crazy. if you don't have a proper plan for your marketing and a proper strategy, that'd be the easiest way to overspend.
No, I think now you're talking my love language here, because I think that there's a lot of people that, you're talking about inefficiencies. I also think it's when people try to completely spend their way out of that problem.
Yeah.
And then also the throwing money at things and switching directions a lot. Like that's
100%.
usually the sign of a no plan, where you're just like, all right, this vendor, no, oh, they suck. No, this vendor, then this vendor, then this vendor. And it's like, no vendor is going to solve this for you. Like you said, get a plan, get a strategy in place, know what you really are doing different than the rest of the market. Like, have that boiled down into, like, I like traction because it tells me like I need 3 unique value propositions and I need to say them a lot, and there's a number of other things that can make your marketing more efficient, but getting some of that clarity around what makes you different is a big one. What else have you seen on that side, since this is a marketing agency's podcast? What else have you seen is a good way to make marketing more efficient? Like any key plan items that people should have?
Yeah, I mean, you should be your biggest marketing advocate, not only in when you're dealing with your marketing agencies or who you're working with for your website, SEO, PPC, all that stuff. But you should also be the biggest person promoting your business. I don't know how many people I meet that have a business 1.5 million or under. And if you look at their Facebook page, it's not even on there. Like, how do your friends don't even know what you do? How do you want the general public to know? How can you get word of mouth? I mean, the number one way to grow for free, no money, is word of mouth. So you should be loud and proud about your business. I'm really big about loud and proud brand. I'm huge about that. Like, there's lots of people in the market that will do brand building. Our brand is big. It's loud in Austin. There are people that come up to me at conventions that do HVAC in my market in Austin. And they're like, oh my God, you're the Koala guy. We love your Koala trucks. We love your billboards. Your radio ads are so funny. To me, that is the easiest way. Just be you and be proud about it. Definitely don't hide who you are. Your social media page could easily garner you just a few calls. I mean, again, if you're smaller, just 1 or 2 trucks, getting a referral from a friend on Facebook is a differential. That's a difference maker. That's a warm lead.
Yeah, it is a wild thing. I think it's because people want to be cool, and really kind of promoting your company feels like you're no longer being cool. You're kind of like, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but like, we all wish that brand and marketing would just roll without us having to try. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like, like, people don't want to have to try. It's like, no, I'll just pay somebody. But that's so much more expensive to pay, especially at the very beginning. It's so much more expensive to try to pay your way out of the marketing problem than to just like apply effort, not worry about being cool, and just be loud. Be loud and consistent and intense. Yeah. And like, eventually you'll have enough money to then be able to do all the other things Paul's talking about. But first, you've got to be loud and embarrassing and just love your brand and love your company.
Yeah. Be you all the way through. I mean, you are your brand when you're small, right? And first off, I'm not a big fan of naming your company after your last name, Ned's HVAC or whatever it is. Those have very minimal scalability. So find a brand that suits you. Find something that fits you, right? I mean, everybody had some sort of a connection with something at some point that they could say, hey, I can really connect to that. Koala was the name when I got here. And I came from a different brand before that. And Koala was easy to adopt. I mean, they're cute, they're cuddly, they're a lot of fun. And I put that on everything that I have social media wise immediately. Like, this is me. I'm part of Koala now. I bought into the company with cash money. My partner did also. And I don't want anybody that I know not knowing to call me for HVAC. That's nuts to me that some people will do that. So be loud, be proud about your vehicle, about your business, about what you do. If you don't have money for a big loud wrap, get as much as you can on that truck as you humanly can. So when you're driving around, people know who you are. If you're going to invest in marketing, I would do that pretty high, because you want anybody in your neighborhood to know that's what you do.
He does is he teaches the most valuable team in your business. He'll just add nothing but profit.
There's so much money left in the call center. So much money. If you're not at a 90% booking rate, showing empathy on the phone, smiling on the phone, making sure they're having a better day after they got off the phone with you, then you need to call Power Selling Pros and see Brigham.
So it kind of necessitates is like the cart before the horse potentially. Like, where does this money come from? Let's get back to that pricing strategy. Mm-hmm. Like, so you should price yourself in such a way that these things are possible. And it should be stated, Paul, that you guys aren't huge yet. You know, you went from 4.3 and now you're pushing past 5, hopefully this year and all that. Now, you're a fairly, you know, it's early, but you're doing all the things on marketing. So you've priced yourself effectively to be able to invest in these things. And it's like, which one comes first and how do you do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell you the number one thing that we're doing that I think that for you, Tim, you might go, oh gosh, you're really doing that. We were at 2.3 million at the end of last year. Our tracking is just over 5.5 right now, based on the curve, the bell curve we always run. And we're doing that with slightly less marketing spend than last year. And it's intentional. So we're doing a lot more training on in the customer's home, how to maximize our trips to the houses, right? So I could take the same amount of texts and the same amount of calls, and I can get double the revenue because we had poor efficiencies when I walked in the door on calls. And there's just a handful of things. Now that can get me one jump. I'm going to tell you right now, that's a single jump. Once that jump is made, all the money's got to go back into the marketing world because you've got to make the phone ring. If the phone isn't ringing, it's going to make it really hard. That's a real thing. So, I mean, if you're asking me how to increase my financial capability of my business, is my average ticket needs to come up. And that typically happens by being more intentional in a customer's home and having a higher price point.
And you're talking about maximizing the value on every call. How do you do that to make customers happy? How do you specifically?
Yeah. So on the HVAC world, we do something that I have been told by many of business owners that are on the smaller side, and a few on the bigger side, that what we do is crazy. But we have our technicians pull the blower assembly on every call. We take it out, we take it to the customer, and we show them the condition of the blower assembly. And once the customer can see how ineffective their filter system is and how dirty that gets, and we can explain to them that over 80% of failures are caused by dirt and dust on a blower assembly, then that customer gets very interested in purchasing a way to keep that from happening. And we talk about IAQ, and then we sell more IAQ that way. And the customers, we will guarantee that IAQ will keep that blower assembly clean for an express amount of time, depending on what level they purchase. So right there is one easy way. It's free for you to pull the blower wheel when you're at the customer's house. Show it to them.
I like that. That's very specific value. Thank you. Is it wrong to say that there's a lot of technicians and comfort advisors that have this old idea that IAQ is unnecessary, or like is maybe like just trying to milk the customer?
There's plenty of I would say the old thought that, is this really necessary? My thing about that is, if you've been doing this long enough, then you understand what causes a blower motor to go out. A blower motor should last the life of the system. If it doesn't, why? Why? Because airflow restriction and friction. Well, friction is caused by buildup on the blades, And airflow restriction is also caused by buildup on the blades. And then that also gets into the coil and does the same thing, right? So anybody who wants to argue that, they're arguing against just facts. And science says that if this part has a buildup, it's going to wear out faster. And so those people, to me, whenever I have that conversation, I say, you think that maybe I'm being salesy and maybe taking advantage of a customer. But the truth is, you are. If you won't explain this to the customer, then you're just taking advantage of making the repair in the future. You're just doing it so the calls still come. And I don't want their system to break down.
And I mean, not to mention just the other nice to have things of clean air. And like, it's kind of something where it's like, if some customers, if they were really given that option, like, and just because you necessarily wouldn't always take it doesn't mean that they wouldn't enjoy that option. And if you would illustrate the reality of the situation, that they wouldn't be like, yes, give me that now. Like, I frankly I don't think I've gotten that option. If my HVAC company is watching this,
well, they should definitely give you the option.
I probably would be interested in something like that, especially with a young daughter. Like, it's just where, it's one of those, like, using your wallet to make a purchase decision for a homeowner, where they should be allowed to make that decision with their wallet.
Yeah, I just like to present the reality to the customers and give them their options. And then at that point, they can decide what fits their home and their budget. It's definitely not my job to decide where Tim spends his money. I don't know what Tim's wallet looks like, right? So if I have 4 factors that I can affect in the home, I can affect Tim, I can affect his home, and I could affect myself, and I can affect Tim's bank account. Only one of them do I have no knowledge of Tim's bank account. Everything else, I can talk to Tim, I can explore his home, I can find out what's important to him, and then I can take care of myself. Why would I focus on your bank account? It's the only thing that I can't see.
Well, talk to me. What is IAQ? Like, if we're adding on something for that, what is like the average increase in ticket with something like that? Like, just, I'm curious.
Yeah, we offer 3 levels. So the average sale on that comes out to be around $2,000, because that's the middle level. So we have an IAQ 1000, it's like $1,200, and then an IAQ 2000, which I think comes out about $2,100, and an IAQ 3000 is roughly around $3,000. And they include different things. So filtration first, electrostatic filter first, UV light and electrostatic filter is 2000, and then the 3000 comes with the ozonator on top of those 3.
Oh, dude, I want the ozonator. Oh, yeah. I just heard ozonator, and I want it. I want it bad.
Yeah, well, your AC company, hopefully they're watching this and they're going to give you a call directly after it. And that's what we do. And it's just taking the time. And, it takes more time.
$1,000? Like, it's crazy to not offer that. I mean, like, to me, that doesn't sound that expensive for the value. You know what I mean? Like,
let me ask you this.
People react differently to different things, like, maybe, I mean, do a lot of and I'm just asking basic questions here, but do a lot of HVAC people not have this in their home, and so they don't necessarily think that people need it?
Well, I will tell you that it's not installed in new construction pretty much anywhere in the Austin market. And in the 3 markets that I've worked in, which include Austin, none of that is a standard. So it's always an add-on. It's always an upgrade. And there's a lot of different variations of it in the market. So some people, they maybe don't trust this because they've had bad luck with that and those kinds of things. So, I mean, to me, the biggest thing.
Is that correct? Is that one reason that HVAC people sometimes don't offer, is because it complicates the system a little bit and it's more to maintain? Is that potentially why?
Yeah, it is more to maintain. It does, how do I say, complicate things. And if you haven't installed that before and you don't understand what they do, they can be a bit intimidating. It can be a bit intimidating.
Okay. All right, let's keep on going here on this. I just wanted to get a full picture of that. What makes, I mean, you were talking to me about, as you scale, how you have to figure out what makes you specifically successful. Yes. And then scale that and make training on that. when you were talking to me about that, were you talking about specifically the service call? Like if you are a service technician or comfort advisor type person and you're like an owner that's doing these calls and trying to figure out what you're kind of referencing there?
Yeah, 100%. So 100%, you will need processes for each thing. So you reference traction. I'll reference the book, The E-Myth, right? So the E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisit, they're going to talk about you need to have every little thing you do written down so that you could teach somebody else to do it. And that will go so far, right? Just writing it down, having somebody ride with you and teaching them, that's awesome. So you definitely need to identify the difference makers that you are compared to anybody else. And then you need to write those down and you need to train on those so that when your technicians that you hire, let's say you don't have anybody right now and you're like, how do I scale? Who am I going to hire? That answer is, what is your strong suit and what is your weakness? And the first person you try to hire is going to fill your weakness, right? So if you're terrible on the phones, then get a call taker before you get a tech, even if they're part-time. I'm gonna go sideways here real quick. If you're looking you don't have enough money for a full-time person. One of the things we did at Koala, we wanted to get somebody part-time to come and help us in the office. We wrote an ad specifically to stay-at-home moms that their kids are in school and they're available from 9 to 2. There is more talent sitting on the bench right now because they take their kids back and forth to school. They need a flexible schedule. There's so much talent on the bench. So we specifically target marketed job ad to them. And we got an amazing person that literally was not working professionally at that time, was taking care of the kids, but the kids are getting to an age where she's available, 4 or 5 hours a day, maybe 6 hours. And this lady, her name is Kayla, she kills it for us. I mean, one of our best hires of my whole career. Simply, nobody was marketing to her for a job. I mean, there's so much talent, right? So you could easily find somebody to fill that void for you. And then you've taken yourself off the phones. And I'm mostly talking about that because most of us technicians are not great at answering the phones and building a schedule and running a CRM. If we were good at that at the beginning, we wouldn't have gone into the field. We were doing something in the, going to college and going to something that's going to be behind a desk. After you've got that in place, then you can start looking at hiring a tech. And that tech you hire needs to know how you operate. So kind of bringing that all the way around.
Hey there, are you a home service business owner that's tired of your answering service just kicking the can down the road? Well, we can help. Pink Collars will assign a dedicated, supported, and trained individual to answer your phones, emails, texts, and even more. Give us a call at 888-325-7465, or better yet, check us out online, www.pinkcollars.com.
I love that. And, for office tasks, I just found out Loom does AI SOPs, which is crazy. Like if you get the AI version of Loom, it's like an upgraded version. Mm-hmm. Literally, you can do an SOP. You can just videotape yourself doing it, and then you press like transcript or whatever, and it knows that it's an SOP, and it will break it down into steps. Which then is like, I mean, kind of like some of these tools that are coming out are crazy. The ability to give that off, like an office task to somebody in the way that you want to do it is like beautiful. Wow. I do think there's something, like I know that there's a lot of people in the industry that recommend manuals. However, I am a millennial. Are you a millennial, Paul?
Yep.
I feel
yes,
like
I am. Yeah.
So we don't always read manuals, do we, Paul?
I don't read the directions or the manuals. Don't want that.
So I'm just saying, like videos and like breaking things down. Like for me, it's been trying to like videotape myself doing something multiple times, and then they can figure out the difference. Like, hey, there's 2 versions of this. I can figure out what the basic idea. There's a book. buy back your time, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about, like, essentially you videotape yourself doing the same tasks multiple times, and then they have to make the SOP. And so I was actually going to do that. I was doing that through Loom, and then I realized they had the AI automated SOP, and I was like, this is crazy, man. Stuff's going quick. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, love eMyth, love Traction. I think I read eMyth before Traction. They're very similar to each other in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about more, like we're talking about pricing right, providing value to match that pricing, like, because you can't just raise your prices, right? You have to do some other things. When you raise your prices, you have to match the value. How are some other things that you're doing to kind of match that value to that higher price?
I'm glad you asked that. This is something that I get from a lot of people about, like, how do you value add, or what value do you bring? And to me, the value thing is a sliding scale, right? So as I scale a company, I naturally raise the price because we provide a higher value. That's very simple. The more trucks I have, the more capability I have to take care of my customer. What if I have a return call, like a callback, there's a mistake made? How quickly can my guy get back there? That's a value that you get with scaling, right? So just naturally adding one person to your staff increases the value you have for that customer. So that's one way that you can gauge value. So that's an encouraging factor to hire somebody. People get worried about hiring somebody. So, well, as soon as you get that other truck on the road, you can raise your price just in that value. So there's one way that I gauge value, is basically by size of company. The other way is time and home. How long are you going to be on a service call? You could probably speak to this pretty easily, Tim, but how much does it cost to make the phone ring one time? What's a lead cost for your area? And you get it down and out, and you have a blank thermostat, right? That's an easy call. Go in there, thermostat's blank, and about guarantee you that it's a stopped up drain. You blow the drain out, you probably charge them $100, $150, and you drive away. And that customer they don't know what you did. They know you were a racehorse and you got in and out of there. But how did you build value to the customer? When did you at least have a logo truck? Did you have a uniform? Did you wear boot covers? Did you ask them about any other issues that they're having in the home? Any hot or cold spots? Did you make sure you checked the outdoor unit when you were there, even though you're just blowing out a drain line inside? We have a very specific process where we check certain things in a certain order every call, no matter what. If it's a stopped up drain, the guys are pulling the blower assembly like we talked about. It doesn't matter. If it's a bad cap outside and we're going to change a capacitor, we're still going to go inside. We're still going to pull that blower assembly, because we're going to give that customer the 100-point inspection, or whatever you want to call it, 50-point inspection every single time. And you're going to bring them in on it by showing them the blower, by showing them any part that seems to be failing, anything like that. You're going to literally take it to them at the dining room table. You're going to show them. Videos are great. Who doesn't have a smartphone now? We take video evidence of anything we see inside. Do you need to be careful what you say on there, because it's going to play, right? So make sure you say the right things. We use Service Titan, so that allows us to send that out to the customer pretty easily. But if you're still small starting out, you could just send it to them in an email or a Dropbox or something like that. So, but value building is easy if you just spend a little bit more time on the call.
And I have this question ready because we discussed it before the podcast, but it's a little bit of a different subject. So I just want to go over there for a second. How can you tie your team members' goals to the company's goals?
So that one, that's a totally different animal. But we do that before we hire somebody. When I interview somebody, I ask them their goals. Like, what does this job do for you in the immediate? Like, what bills are we paying? But then, hey, what's your 12-month goal? Most people, if we will ask for a 3-year goal, but about 3/4 of the staff that I'm hiring, they're not really planning their life out past 1 year. And then what I'll ask them to say, give me something that's just a crazy goal that you think you'll never achieve. And a lot of people say, like, buying a house or, paying for something really massive or getting a sports car. And I make a deal with them right there before I ever even hire them. I say, if I make you a job offer and you come to work here, it's going to be my personal mission to help you achieve that. And then we're going to talk about that. I do one-to-ones with my field staff once a month, and I do with my office staff once a week. The field staff, that's a lot harder to juggle and all that. But how do I tie that in? We constantly talk about what their goals were, what has changed in those goals, and then how we modify the goal around that. Sometimes, hey, when my goal was to buy a sports car. Now my wife is pregnant. I'm 25 years old, be a dad. Oh, God, I want to be a good dad. Okay, hey, what do you think you need for that? Let me make sure your kids are taken care of. But that's when we talk about that all goes down to our company culture. That's to the core of Koala. Is we are a family first company, and we put our employees before we put anybody else. So the Koala families, our employees, their family, then it's our customers. And I hate to say customers are last, but they are. It's easier to find a customer than a good staffer. I don't know if that answers your question, Tim.
That's a good perspective shifter, I think. And I think get your priorities right and the other things will work out. Right. So now we've got our segments of the show. We've got hot takes and cold trends first. So what's something for hot take? What's something controversial maybe in the industry, but you would defend the position against the crowd?
Well, I think we already talked about that, pulling the blower wheel and the IAQ sales, which to me you could see I'm pretty happy or strong on that one. I would tell you that definitely, that's a hard one, Tim, because now I've trumped myself up there because I've already given you that one.
Okay.
Charge more money is a different one, controversial. Yeah. No matter what you think that your is too high, it's probably not high enough is really the truth. And as simple as that sounds, your price probably should increase by 20 to 25% if you're doing under 1.5 million. Today.
I like it. How about cold trends? Things that people should stop spending time, money, energy, or effort on that maybe they are now.
Well, that's another one. And I hate to go back into price, but worrying too much about the price is a waste of energy, big time. Also, don't worry about decisions that can be changed. So I would say a lot of people, they mull over, should I do this or should I do that, right? Should I charge a service fee? Let's just say that's the decision. Is it a reversible decision? If it's a reversible decision, go ahead and pull the trigger on it. Don't worry about it too much. If you get blowback from your customers, then change it back. So probably don't waste so much time and energy worrying about those reversible decisions and just spend it on irreversible decisions.
Okay, I like that. And then lastly, our last segment is called Money in the Phones. It's basically about phone answering systems, sponsored by Power Selling Pros, who helps you train your people to answer the phone better. And I just want to find out if you guys have any systems or tweaks to phone answering systems that would help people make more money.
Yeah, for me, we really focus pretty hard on the phones. Call scripts are really important. But the truth is, the phones should always be ringing. That's the number one thing. And so if they're not ringing in, you should be calling out. And so you should always have strong inbounding scripts and stronger outbounding scripts. And I will tell you, somebody like Power Selling Pros is a great partner for those things. They can really help you figure out how to do that properly and work through your customer base so you're not just abusing people and overcalling them, those kinds of things.
All right, Paul, this has been an incredible episode. I would love it if you would share anything that you'd like to share. What's your guys' website? Where can people find you online? That type of thing.
So we're koalacooling.com. That's us. You can always reach me at paul@koalacooling.com. And I'm telling you, I love networking with people. So if you watch this, whether you liked it or you didn't like it, something was controversial or not, shoot me an email and I'd love to chat about it. Because I learn every day from other people that are doing this. I definitely didn't figure it all out myself.
I love that. I love that attitude. And I think that that's partly why I try to give back to people in my, if I think about the marketing side, like I try to share because I did get a lot of positives. And then also I remember when people wouldn't, when people were like standoffish, and I was very early and I was just trying to like get my first $100,000 or something like that. And I think it's funny how people would be like, no, I'm not giving you any information. It's like crazy. So don't be that company that hoards all the information to yourselves. Don't be that person in the community that shoves everybody down. I get it. We're all a little competitive. But that's one reason to be part of like a national network of people in your industry, and to learn more from people in different markets too.
Yeah, 100%. I really appreciate you having me on, Tim, and I hope that this helps some other people along the way. I pretty much give anybody anything I have at any given point as far as it goes for knowledge base. Unless you're directly working in Austin, there might be a few things I keep to myself, but for the most part, if I can help somebody, why not? I mean, pay it forward. People help me get to where I am, just like you said. So I'm happy to help anybody that's looking for help in scaling and growing their business.
Paul, thanks so much, man. It really means a lot to me that you're on, and I think it was a really, really good episode. And if you thought it was a really good episode and you're watching this, please give it a like, please comment, please subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes. And thank you guys for being here. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.